Now we're good to go. Got ourselves a TVP for the start of Group B. In the top right, it is Maru. And in the bottom left, we got Trigger. Trigger being the other non-Korean representation in GSL. We just saw Rainer make it through in second place of Group A, just barely. Him and Kira made it through. Now we'll see who today will make it through. Maru, Trigger, Nightmare, or I've already forgotten. That's amazing. He just had it. Or Rogue. Nailed it. Obviously, Maru is coming in as the favorite of this group, and then I guess Rogue would be the second favorite. That's actually kind of weird. Obviously, if this was 6 years ago, Rogue is 100% the favorite, although he also is bummed out of a couple of GSLs in the first round. But let's just say, 100% he would be. But 2025? I don't know if Rogue is really the second favorite. I mean, I'm not jumping to saying that Trigger or Nightmare are. I feel like the rest of them outside of Maru are kind of equally possible in winning or advancing out of this group, I should say. I think Maru wins the group. Even though Maru has had some problems, he has had, one or two of his own bad GSLs, but they are pretty rare. He also has been dealing with a lot of shoulder stuff, apparently so much so that he's actually just not going to go to military. I think that's way worse than I thought it would be. I didn't even know that was possible. I thought they just, put you on like a desk job or something and said, suck it up, soldier. But, so he's obviously been dealing with some stuff, and with that in mind, I think you could absolutely go to a lot of Maru surprise losses and point to his injuries. I have no problem with that. I still think Cyril's the GOAT. Let's just get the YouTube comment going with some controversy. But you could definitely say, like, okay, Maru can't do this because he's probably really hurting that day. And I've asked him in the past, there's one time where I said, why don't you just show this style all the time? It's like mass bio versus Zerg style. You seem to only do it every once in a while. And he was like, literally just depending on how I feel. And he meant like physically how he felt, like if his hands could move fast. So what's really astonishing is that he is way above average, with apparently dealing with a very consistent shoulder clavicle problem. I don't know exactly what it is. But yeah, pretty impressive. Anyway. So Maru's the favorite. Trigger is kind of, I guess, the underdog because he's a foreigner. Because that's how we still talk about StarCraft even 15 years after the fact. So, and I think it's still relatively fair. For the most part, you would still say that like the amount of Korean pro gamers left are better than maybe an average of some of the other countries. But it's dwindling every day, basically. And so even the guys who returned back, like a Rogue or an SOS, who at one point were 100% favorites, now you actually would say, oh, there's tons of foreigners who could beat them. So it definitely is changing, but yeah. Trigger, I think, has the ability to surprise people, but I think I'm on Maru. But he also has the ability to throw, let's be real. Being, North American, I suppose it's in his blood or something, I don't know. But it also means that he has really fun games. He will get into sticky positions of his own creation, just didn't do something right. But he will have some really fun games where he either almost makes a comeback or successfully makes a comeback. And they did, past tense anyway, they did seem to happen a lot in this matchup. But I don't know if it'll happen specifically against Maru. Generally, when it comes to foreigners versus Korean Terrans, it's still a bit of imbalance. And when you're talking about Maru as the Korean Terran, it's pretty damn imbalanced. One stock we're already going down. This is Maru's opener, guys. And while it is a bit of a surprise, it's got a little bit of power to it. You're not really supposed to lose a stalker like that. I was just scouting for something like this. It scouted it, and it died for it. Probe going to be sacrificed. Nexus further delayed because of that. Unfortunately. The Nexus already having to be canceled by just that little drop is frankly less than ideal. I know it came in guns blazing, so it looks really awesome, but it's really not uncommon to see a factory expand medevac drop. Little different to use it to just aggress onto the third base, so you do have to keep that in mind, give Trigger a little credit. But subpar so far for Trigger. because we're really just trying to play the most perfect game ever against one of the best players in the world ever. Stalker's trying to get in the front again to see if something exactly like this is on the way. Maru apparently not going to give Trigger any time to breathe. I know this is 2 base versus a potential third, but this feels so relentless. It feels like it started from the very beginning of the game. Trigger needs to cancel his third base again. Maru is giving up stim and combat shields for a while to do this, but it's doing plenty of damage. Plenty. Good refocus fire to get the medevac, but it's still so much DPS from even unsieged tanks. I mean, and the Banshee is also great DPS. It's not being target fired. There just simply isn't enough here for Trigger. I don't know what he started off with. I did not look. I don't know if he started off with 2 or 3 gateways, but now he's at 4. It's too little too late. This is like a throwback almost. Like when sometimes non-Koreans go to GSL, and you know, obviously people were excited, but they did think they had very low chance of winning. And then the Koreans would just make mincemeat out of them. You know, like they took it personally that a foreigner was in GSL. This felt like one of those games. I'm just trying to see exactly where it all started, man. Depp got in, got a scout. You know, it's on 1-1-1 though, so it's not. That could have been a cyclone. Or a transfer over into a Raven even. You know, that's not telling you the whole story. This is, I said, not uncommon, but the direction of it is a little uncommon. Trigger was probably more so setting up the scout and medevac, intending to head to his main or something. So the third Nexus gets canceled here, which is almost never happens. Because of that, it's further laid with the probe sacrifice. Because of that, the third Nexus isn't done by the time this attack happens. Trigger is waiting for Blink to get on the field. He is going into a pretty fast robotics bay. And he is only on 2 gateways as well, so that had hurt his chances. I mean, the Nexus wouldn't have been done, I don't think. It would have been maybe at 80% finished. You know, maybe he could have gotten a shield battery faster. I think he was kind of greedy. He was greedy, and I think Maru picked up on it. Maru was like, you're only 2 gating. And you've already, like, had your Nexus canceled once. Let me just push all my units out and kill you. Game 2 is going to be an Ultra Love. Maru took a swift victory against this guy, Trigger. Trigger was greedy, though. He was. And it feels bad to say that, because it's not like he was insanely greedy. I would say 2 gate is, you know, can be kind of greedy. If you think your opponent's going to be early aggressive, kind of nonstop, then a 3 gate's far more safe. But then he also did grab that very fast robotics bay. And I think that kind of combined together did make it fairly greedy. And then that combined with Maru's tenacity, yeah, that just made it look really, really bad. Doesn't happen that way very often, though. You know, there are plenty of games where Protoss player absolutely gets away with a 3rd base on 2 gates. It's a very common build. And the Terran player will factory expand and have some amount of aggression, but they might not go towards the 3rd. The medevac heads to the main, might kill 6 probes, might kill 2. Not quite sure, but doesn't touch a 3rd. Then the follow-up tank push might happen, but a lot of times I would say that also is like, I guess it can sometimes be equally scary for the Terran to do that. And so you might not see it. You might just see that tank nice, you know, hold up in the natural. right? Protecting itself against any blink attacks. But with the Banshee, that does scream intentional. The tank can be a byproduct of just this is the build, this is how you defend, but it also can attack, of course. The Banshee is more of what screams Maru wanted to get aggressive. The power units there individually aren't that powerful, a single tank, a single Banshee, but when you add in just a couple of extra Marines or a medevac or whatever, then suddenly it does become quite a difficult defense, and that only gets more difficult if you've not had a perfect game up until then. I'm trying to say that game doesn't happen often. So I know it's, that looks shockingly bad for Trigger. But it really doesn't happen that often. I feel like you can't really blame him for trying to do what he did. And even maybe get a little surprise of his own, because that was a very fast robotics bow. He just couldn't get to it. That does mean that from here on out, Trigger probably 3 gates. The fear of it might be too real, although the map might have also played a part. That last map was pretty quick. Main base to natural. This might be bigger. Still, like, do you want to risk it? This guy's out for your blood, apparently. It's a difficult decision to make, I would suppose, in competition. There's sometimes sticking with your guns and doing the best of 3 strategy that you set up is absolutely the right call, and you're rewarded for it. You win 2-1. And then sometimes, you look back at it and you're like, well, why didn't I change my plans? Like, that was dumb of me. I should have responded in some way. It's very tough. But one thing's for certain, even the way that I'm talking, is that Maru has just established himself as an incredible overdog. He has instilled the fear of a Korean Terran into Trigger and into the fans. Because that was brutal. And he will probably feel a lot of confidence off of that. I mean, I'm not sure Maru feels a lot. But he will probably understand that he is the supposed winner. And when you get that feeling, when you feel like you're untouchable even, you feel like you can do anything and it works. And for Maru, that's often what happens. Reaper does die, I think before it's scouted. Yeah, it didn't scout the gateway. That is a 3rd gateway. Shield battery on the high ground as well. Robo now coming down. I think Trigger very much is changing his plans based off of the last game. Trigger doesn't know anything else besides that there was a barracks made for Maru, so the Banshee is going to be a surprise. Fortunately, his build is fine against Banshees, if the Observer's in place. And that is usually the difficult part. Having the Observer in the right place at the right time. Their Nex is coming down, but this is so much safer for Trigger. And he won't even be getting that quick of a Warp Prism. You'll see Max Packs do a lot of 3 gates, and he'll get the Robo with a Warp Prism. So that he can attack as well as defend, and he often attacks, right? The Trigger, I don't know if he's going to do that. He's going to get Observer first, so I guess not. Which means he's not going to have that same possible threat in the main. His Stalkers, no! Okay, thank God he figured it out. It's still bad, though. It's still bad. Those Stalkers are supposed to see the incoming attack, kill the Cyclone, kill a couple of SCVs, start picking off some Marines, and instead, they don't see the army, and he has to recall and defend at home. It's just less ideal. Fortunately, I think he has enough Stalkers to defend. Where's the Observer? Where's the Observer? Observer is in the main. He didn't know it was a Banshee, but it looks like he did. Maybe he studied some previous Maru replays on this map. Unfortunately, the Banshees didn't come in for harassment. They came in for an attack. He's just trying to get to a second Observer instead. Oh, he has to cancel the Nexus. This should have been a very easy defense, actually. If his Stalkers had seen the incoming attack, his Observer probably would still be out of place because he'd be probably convinced that the Banshees were going to come in from the side as the attack headed towards the 3rd. Because that's oftentimes the plan, right? So the Observer probably would have been a problem, but again, he could have killed the SCVs, he could have killed the Cyclone, he could have jumped on top of the Marines, he could have just simply delayed the push. Maru would have had to respect the Stalkers. And then you don't lose the 3rd. You maybe still lose some more Stalkers than you should have, because the Banshees get free shots, but you don't lose the 3rd. Never lucky. Well, it's not a 6-minute kill, but Maru is certainly winning. Trigger's gonna try and stay the course. Get his Nexus up. Get his +1. Pair the gateways. He's already got charge. He could go after the tank.
Our pylon is under attack.
Oh, the double Banshee. Oh, a little bit of Artosis pylon right there. A little bit. Fortunately, not connected to the forge. I think that would be the worst one to lose. Kind of sucks these Banshees are still being a problem this late in the game. Trigger also, again, losing Stalkers on the front. Here comes Maru's push. Death is coming. And Trigger cannot stop it. Oh no. Seen some miracle comebacks from Trigger before. Zealots go on the back, trying to get on top of those tanks. Finds the reinforcing one, actually. Leaves the front tanks open, in fact. This is one of the best fights you could ever hope for. Nicely done by Trigger, showing some life. Unfortunately, still forced to be pushed back. Upgrades done for both players, actually, but the Zealots were getting chopped down. Auto turrets also would have provided a lot of damage. Recharge on a sentry right there. Guardian shield will be helpful. Maru's not done yet. Maru is 2-basing currently. I mean, he actually could even pull the SCVs. Might not need to. Might not need to. Zealots are going down. Zealots are being trapped behind Stalkers. Can't believe the Banshee is still helping, by the way. The Zealots are going down. Trigger, one thing he was not able to do while he was preparing for this push was get a good probe count. I mean, he's at almost saturation, I guess, on all 3 bases. Mineral-wise, I guess, that's okay. But it didn't happen very quickly. So he is kind of running out of steam at this point. Trying to also afford a Colossus, which is very useful, so I don't think it's wrong. But his Zealot numbers are getting thinned out. SCVs were pulled! Hey, there it goes! Get him out of here. And we're out of force fields. Recharge is available. Could be used. Could buy some more time. There you go. Yeah, no, still useful. Well, I mean, that was particularly useful, but 2 force fields could still be useful. That, well, maybe not. I don't know, as long as it's more of a choke. The Colossus will get more damage. The Zealots, though, not really wanting to attack into a choke. It's a little double-edged sword, isn't it? Colossus will be saved thanks to a shield battery that was just precisely timed. But again, we're running so low on the fodder here. Second Colossus is out, but is it stuck? Oh my god, it was stuck! Oh no! That second Colossus would have been huge! That second Colossus, if it had actually joined in on the fight before everything else died, would have been huge! I can't believe he got stuck. This map decides to just add insult to injury. And that'll be that. Maru will 2-0. Trigger put up a lot more of a fight in the second game, for sure. Damn Colossus. Second best of 3 here is going to be between Rogue and Nightmare. Starting off on Tokamak. Many of you might be familiar with Rogue. He is not as good as he once was. He's still good, but he's not dominant. Some of you might still be unfamiliar with Nightmare, despite a couple of good runs from this Protoss player. He, very long time ago, very long at this point, on a map called Cactus Valley, He once did a 2-base DT Blink build before anyone thought DT Blink was good. Let me tell you a story from my time. Once upon a time, Dark Templar Blink was seen as a meme. No one believed that it would be useful. No one thought of making 7 of them to go kill a planetary. No one was trying to blink behind Marines to get a little force field. It just wasn't a thing. I thought it sounded crazy when I heard it because I thought it would be abusive. And then when it came to the live game, people were like, it's stupid. How wrong those people were and how right I was. Anyway, so back when it was just a stupid thing no one got, this guy, he 2-base DT blinked Gumiho, showed up with like 420 DTs or something insanely early. Maybe it was even 1-base actually. And jumped on top of a tank and killed it and then killed Gumiho. And that's how Nightmare first made his name. Nightmare has played since then. That was about 2016. That was like beginning Legacy of the Void. He has played since then, but he has not made as much of a mark since then. He did have a very, very, very cool run that unfortunately was not broadcast in DreamHack Austin, I think, or Dallas, whichever one it was by that time, where we weren't there. The casters were in Sweden. That one. Because he had a really good run. He went down to the lower bracket, elimination bracket that is, and he beat like a bunch of really good players and almost made it out of the elimination bracket from like stage 1, which is incredible. But it wasn't broadcast, so womp womp. He's then done some cool things. He's caused some upsets. I think people do recognize him, but it's just not as... He hasn't made a huge mark. You know, he's not gotten to a finals. He's not upset someone in a round of 8, I think. Yeah, it's not too much, but he's got potential. And we're kind of facing... I mean, I know it sounds kind of silly because Nightmare's been playing for at least 10 years, I just pointed out, but we're kind of talking about like an old dog in Rogue versus the up-and-comer, kind of. The loose term of up-and-comer, but stick with me. In that I think they might be evenly matched, because Nightmare is probably more on the up and up, and Rogue is probably more on the down and down. Although that's overselling how, like, you know, much worse Rogue is since his military. He's still very good. One thing I think will benefit Rogue far greater than any actual skill, which sounds mean, but I think his experience will win out in matches like this. Now, his experience being in clutch scenarios, his ability to be a very fearsome all-inner, and that's totally the meta of ZVP right now, and Nightmare being the type of person who has a couple of neat tricks up his sleeve, but does on occasion kind of throw it away. So, Void Ray pops out, Twilight Council's on the way. This could be one of those neat tricks that I'm alluding to. And it might seem really good, and then it might, you know, he might miss micros at depth or something. And that's exactly what it is going to be, Resonant Glaives. You can get Resonant Glaives after an Oracle as well, but the Void Ray obviously guarantees it's a little more shrouded in mystery. The Overlord has no chance of scouting this. It could be something worse, especially if Rogue watched Group A's games, where SOS went for 4 gas... 2 base Tempest. Right now, Rogue's just deflecting the Void Ray as it bothers him a little bit. Trying to look for Overlords, actually. Rogue's trying to hide his currently. Nightmare's grabbing a 3rd base, and Rogue has no idea that it is Twilight Council. Well, this could be bad for Rogue. Still building drones, getting a lair, an evolution chamber, and a roach warren. Has the possibility of a wall. Ling's going to try with its dying breath to confirm that 3rd, by the way. Technically hadn't seen it, I think. Does see it, but doesn't see the amount of adepts. Also with the 2 adepts, maybe, that are usually guarding the 3rd. It does not see the mass amount of adepts that have actually been produced. Moving on to Blink immediately from this, and a Chrono as well. Could be a very quick follow-up, too, so if the adepts don't do damaging damage, maybe the Stalkers will. The adepts, they do come in from a pretty far away point, so the creep is actually able to warn Rogue pretty far in advance. And he should have gotten a wall. Yeah, okay. Okay. That was actually a very clever wall. I had my doubts, but Rogue got it. And that means the Adepts are not actually that great. The drone successfully pulled away, the wall was successful, and the Adepts, they can't do much more. Rogue with a very, very good emergency response. Very good. Pretty sick, actually. Lings are going to be looking for maybe reinforcements. It's actually going to be a proxy gateway, and that's going to be a great find. Yeah, he's going to be able to cancel that. Definitely cancel that. It's also going to tell the intentions of Nightmare. Nightmare is clearly thinking of that immediate follow-up that I was talking about, and now Rogue has a much better idea that that's what's going on. With 2 pylons, it looks like the Lings are going to bother trying to stop this. They're going to let the Roaches handle it, because the wall is handling the Adepts, basically. Well, the Adepts actually left, so there you go. And the Roaches are going to try and get this canceled, which is good if they don't die. Blink 7 seconds away. These Roaches scuttling as fast as they can. Scuttle, 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 scuttle. That could have been worse. That could have been worse. Still got the delay on the proxy gateway. Trash talking a bit. I'm not sure we can build a simple wall. I mean, I wasn't sure, as in I don't know how the wall works. Not like I don't know, Rogue kind of sucks. No, that's not what I was saying. I was saying I really didn't know if that was going to be a wall. But the Spore Crawler is perfectly sized, I guess, right? To allow drones to get through it, but not Adepts. And that's why I think it's so cool. A lot of the times when it comes to an emergency response of Adepts, we do see the panicked drone building evolution chamber here. The fact that he had the foresight to bring that Spore Crawler that he built to the front as soon as he saw the Adepts was really, really good. And Nightmare is in a ton of trouble. Nightmare tried to 1-2 punch this guy, and none of the punches worked. It's a 0-0. Rogue now has a bit of a open field. He's going to go into Tunneling Claws, 1-1, Burrow, Hydralisk Den, and Infestation Pit. Jesus, so that's what I was trying to say. He can do whatever he wants. I thought he would just all in, because Rogue's kind of like that, but he's going to do the best of both worlds. Going to get an attack going, and he's going to have some pretty damn good macro on the backside, well, once he builds drones anyway. Currently really prioritizing the technology. He will eventually need more drones. But oh my god, he catches all the High Templars. Oh, way before Storm's done. Only 1 merge of an Archon. Stalkers had no idea where the Roaches went to. Nightmare had 0 scouting. And that's going to be it. Man, Nightmare... The potential was so high for his build. But it was, at the end of the day, you know, it was terrible. I think the idea was pretty cool. It almost feels like the Adepts coming in from the left was actually the biggest problem, where Rogue also very wisely made sure to spread his creep, I think, with the most emphasis. I think this was farther back at the point of the Adepts. So the creep tomb are able to see it far in advance. The Adepts will go either very far to the left or very far to the right to avoid being seen, right? And they're going to go toward a mining base, and that third base is the only one that's up at that time. So it makes a lot of sense. But still, it gave Rogue so much time to respond. And then the follow-up, I mean, maybe the follow-up could have worked if it wasn't for the pylon kills too, actually. Like, Rogue was all over this, man. A very well-played game 1 from Rogue, who is now up 1. And the top left, Nightmare. Nightmare, you know, is clearly just entirely based off of this build order execution. You know, there wasn't a lot of change-ups he could do on the fly, or that he wanted to do, of course. Like, this is a good plan. Hit him with the Adepts, and then hit him with the Stalkers. And the Adepts, they have, like, a pretty good chance to do something to the Zerg. Even if they don't get into every single mineral line and kill 30 drones, they usually have a good chance of doing something. They force drone pulls off of minerals. They force, usually like something like 6 drones die because it's just so difficult to track where all the Adepts are. They force some more army response too, like a real panicked, like, okay, well, I need more army to track all them across all 3 bases, and then I need to worry about losing, small sections of my army to the adepts, right? Sometimes 8 adepts find 2 roaches, kill that. I need to decide if I want to start droning in preparation, or do I want to just maybe all in from this because it's actually already hurting me. It's just usually something. It's not usually nothing. And something would have still led to a pretty good chance of the stalkers doing a lot. But it was nothing. It was nada. The fact that Rogue even got the spore crawler wall so that the drones could escape, but the adepts couldn't follow, is again making it nothing. Because usually the emergency wall comes down with the evolution chamber, and some poor X amount of drones get caught behind it, and they're like, oh no. And that didn't even happen.
Received. Apparently you are doing something right, Captain.
So an incredible defense. And I was talking about Rogue being the aggressor, Rogue being all in, Rogue not being as as great as he once was. He was at one point certainly one of the... He's actually still kind of one of the contenders of GOATs, but he is a very good player. He was one of the world's best a while ago. But he just proved kind of with that defense. Maybe you think all offense, yeah, he can definitely trip the other guy up. But it was just defense. It was just good defense, macro, strategy, calm. He does also still have the potential of a very nasty all-in, too. So you're kind of showing the best of both worlds. You're showing that you're a well-rounded player at this point. And if Nightmare was thinking, okay, first I'll do the 1-2. I'll adept him into the blink. Then I'll win that game. Got it. Nailed it. Then I'll do, another Void Ray opener to confuse him into, the Tempest thing that SOS did earlier. Well, now you have to kind of rethink that. Because clearly Rogue isn't just going to be blindsided by aggression and tricked easily, if that's what Nightmare was hoping for. I don't think Nightmare is not respecting Rogue. I think he's just hoping that one of these things will work, will actually trick the guy. And that first game was a hard no. We do another Void Ray opener, by the way. But this doesn't necessarily have to go anything cheesy. This could actually just be to scare Rogue. So Rogue sees a Void Ray again. He thinks, oh, you're going to do the same thing because it didn't work last time. That doesn't make any sense. But still, I need to be careful, and maybe I don't drone as hard. Maybe I get something else, right? But the Overlord might have seen the Oracle. I think it did. Zoom! It technically did. It's like actually kind of hard to tell because it was so early on, I guess, in the starting the Oracle. But it did. It certainly saw that something else was making in the Stargate, that's for sure. And now it's confirmed the Oracle. And so that alone will tell you that the Twilight Council is not nearly as fast. So even if it was still resonating glaives, it would not be as scary. Ling getting in is a bit of a sore point there. The Oracle had Pulsar Beam on the entire time. It's like, why is it already out of energy? Well, that's a whoops-a-daisy. And he didn't recharge it. Oh. Oh, and he supply block, too. Oh. Oh, I think Nightmare just... Oh, that's not a good sign. It's not the worst sign ever, but Nightmare did just have a 30-second period where he definitely made a lot of mistakes. In this Oracle, it has to scout, so I think that's what he's thinking of moving it across the map, even though it literally has 1 second of Pulsar Beam. But he didn't recharge either, which is actually quite automatic for a lot of Protoss players at this point. They get the Oracle, they immediately recharge it. Huh. Not the best sign for the Nightmare fans out there, but if he gets back on track, it's not truly devastating. Loses an Adept, loses a Probe, not quite getting on track. Does barely get the wall at the very least. So he blocks out the Lings potentially scouting his dedicated aggression. There's no Forge on the field right now. As again, Chrono's on the blink, but that's maybe more normal, I guess. It's still no Forge, plenty of gateways. Maybe even would have either seen or disrupted the Templar Archives timing. So that's a good thing it did not get in. Nonetheless. What is Nightmare going to do? He doesn't have a Robo, so he can't get a War Prism. The Stalkers are going to be on the field without much protection. Well, I guess 2 Oracles is a good amount of protection. Very quickly in a Storm. Okay, I was like, there must be a Forge on the way at some point then. It's like clearly going into a later game. And there finally is. Rogue, by the way, has been totally unharassed, has almost killed this Oracle as well. Lost the Nighlings just for trading out with the Adepts and whatnot. Totally perfect game from him, probably. You know, Rogue, 68 drones. We call them the Oracles. Going into Ling Hydra. He's probably going to do a Ling Hydra bust. Nightmare... So in this case, actually, with Nightmare getting some scouting done, you know, he sees the amount of gases, he sees the Evolution and the Roach Warren. He didn't actually see the Hydras done, to be fair. Either way, like, Storms are pretty good to have against someone who's going to try and kill you. They're Roaches or Hydras. And he actually might be rather well set up for this. If Rogue tries to simply run his head into the wall, then that could lead to a good game for Nightmare. But if Rogue, you know, now he scouts that Storm will be available, he should at least have some type of concave and some type of spread on his army. He could also attack third and natural, you know, splitting up the limited amount of army that the Protoss has when they invest so much into Storm. It's very expensive. The Void Ray was killed, by the way. Somewhere, somehow. 79 drones, by the way, guys, for Rogue. So this is... If Rogue just runs his army into the Storms, then Nightmare has a chance, but there's no reason for Rogue to do that. Rogue could say, okay, you know, fair enough, you have Storms, and I don't really want to tango with that. I'm just going to get Lurkers instead, and then Lurkers aren't as scared of Storms. And Nightmare isn't as well set up to go into, I think, that long of a game. He is going to try and go into a 3-base Fleet Beacon. Speaking of expensive, it's going to be difficult to balance that while trying to get a 4th, which means also getting a decent amount of army, which means more money into the army, while also getting an upgrade and a charge, and also carriers. Fourth base for Nightmare is on the way, unharassed, but Rogue, as I pointed out, is probably just, well, I don't need to push into you, I'll just wait for Lurkers. Which Nightmare predicts. Nightmare is like, okay, you're not pushing into me, so you're probably going to go into Lurkers. That's the natural evolution of Hydras. And so that is why we have such a fast Stargate. Like, none of these things are wrong from either player. I think what I'm trying to get at is that Nightmare is being led a little more than Rogue. Rogue is the one that I think is still controlling things ultimately. He's got good creep spread, he's got good drones, he got to a good drone count much faster. He does have the ability to sacrifice a little. You know, he can start taking engage at this point and have a comfy follow-up as well. Where Nightmare, I think he's really playing on a very fine edge here. He has to do everything pretty damn perfectly. And that is difficult to do. A couple of Tempests are out. Revelation on a handful of these Lurkers so it can start trying to target fire them. Hive is done, but no Viper's made yet. Unfortunately, the Tempests do still take a while to kill these Lurkers, and damn if these units don't have a habit of just running into the Lurkers. This is still very ugly. This Nightmare chases after the Overseer, gets the snipe, but needs another Revelation, actually. He's barely holding on. Thank goodness his 4th base is up and running without anything attacking it. Although it isn't saturated yet. Mothership comes out. Mama ship, no detection. That is why the Stalkers sniped that Overseer. And Rogue is maybe not taking the best possible fight here. It's getting a little all over the place, isn't it? I think he will have to retreat. But he has the option of retreating. He had the option of taking a somewhat subpar fight. Which, I don't know if I really call it subpar. It's not as good as it would, maybe should have been. Yeah, I guess it was subpar, actually. Loses out and the resources lost. Stayed around a little bit too long when it was clear that he wasn't quite winning. But Nightmare wasn't perfect either. I mean, Nightmare lost a lot of units having to go in and snipe at Overseer, and then just the units being attracted to Lurker spikes. And he also lost Cybernetic score, which means that his +1 was denied. And so much time spent focusing on the attack meant that he was not getting saturation on his 4th. So the probes, I think, are on their way now. Yeah. And Rogue had the bank to recover. He has still a very consistent economy. 6 base, definitely want that. And he's got all these upgrades finishing. He has all these options. The Spire is done. The Hive is done. He could, again, get to the Vipers. He could just go more into Lurkers, finish all those upgrades too, which are done at this point. And, he could start to really take advantage of how wide this map can be. Attack on the left, attack on the right. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. That's what I told him to do. But seriously, it's always going to be very difficult for Nightmare to hold on both positions. Yeah, the storms having to be used in less than ideal scenarios and then getting traded out as well. Tempest go to respond over on the right side, which wasn't too bad, but the Lurkers did just retreat, so it's not like there was a big sacrifice. Nightmare is trying his damnness. That is for sure. Nightmare is not willing to give up. He'd fallen so far behind. And he's still only +2 on the way. As Rogue is going to finish +3 missile faster. 30 probes went down in that last attack, too. Only 7 Lurkers remain. Rogue has built a Corruptor count, realizing that the maybe Mothership and the Tempest count did get kind of high. I think 15 Corruptors will do the trick, especially if the Storms aren't a part of it, and for some reason these High Templars went way far ahead of the army. The rest of the High Templars jumped on by the Ling. Still some Storms available. The Corruptors might not want to take this fight. Storms available, Archons there. That wasn't quite the moment. Rogue on 85 drones, 6 bases. Nightmare scrounging up some money to try and go for any amount of harassment. And Rogue has not been terribly mindful of that. He has been pretty confident in his aggression, keeping Nightmare from attacking him. But that is about to change. However, Rogue is trying to win the game right here, right now. Corruptors with a little bit of a spread, going after the Mothership, now on top of the Tempest. Storms look like they're all gone. The Archon's the only thing guarding the Mothership from those Corruptors. The Zealots on top of that 6th base are not going to get the kill. Rogue a little too close, able to respond quickly. Nightmare is up to 61 probes, which actually saturates his bases. Really? No, it doesn't. I guess it doesn't quite, actually. He does need more probes, but he just, in general, needs another base as well. Nightmare almost matching his opponent's supplies really made it, like, much more complicated game. Thought he'd be out of juice by now. Even the army supplies near identical. The upgrades, though, damn, you just don't see this very often. Protoss only has +2. And the Zerg has 311. Zealots trying to hold off in the corner and come back at a more opportune time. Lurkers are left a little alone. The Tempests need to... it kind of feels like Nightmare might have all of his units on one hotkey? Maybe he just thought the Corruptors were closer. There was an opportunity for the Tempest to try and kill maybe 1 or 2 Lurkers there. The Lurkers are unintentionally killing these rocks, by the way. I hope they don't fall on some units, some critical units. I'm actually not even sure which way they fall. I mean, this one falls over there, but... that is a lot of Archons, guys. It's definitely a chance that Rogue could throw this game. If Rogue did not take Nightmare seriously, there are times where he could have over-dedicated and lost way more and had a lot more to fear on the defense. But I think he's done a good enough job kind of pushing in and retreating. He's also managed to handle the small amount of run-bys. He might need to take that more seriously if Nightmare had a 5th base, but he knows that Nightmare doesn't. Well, maybe he doesn't know, but I figure it. And Nightmare without a 5th base the entire time. He's remaxed almost 3 times. Or remaxed almost twice. And still has some minerals to throw at the other hatcheries. Ling's now, however, on top of the Nexus in the main base. Corruptor's on top of the Tempest almost. One gets very, very low. Probe's dying every which way. Hatchery might fall, but this hatchery looks like it'll stand fine as the spines are there to help out. And Rogue is looking for the final push. Nightmare held on for 6 minutes longer than I really thought he would. And he almost got to a equally good army. But not quite. And Rogue has been trying to give himself options the entire time. So also adding on an Ultralisk Cavern in case Ultras were needed. I don't think they will be. 100 supply difference. Although only 50 of it in army. Nightmare's going to be down to just his 4th. He's going to tap up before then. GG's Rogue. 2-0. Advances to the winners. Rogue versus Maru is our winners match. Rogue defeated Nightmare. Literally just happened. And Maru defeated Trigger. So both of them got a 2-0. Both series had a more, a closer second game, but not too much, honestly. They kind of both had a similar pace to their best of 3s. You could still certainly say that Maru was more devastating. But now, Rogue, great. You got the 2-0. Pretty well done, too. And now? Well, now you face Maru. So, GG's. Unfortunately, whereas I had total faith in Rogue winning against Nightmare, I favored him giving the experience. Then he really played very smart in the first game. Very clean. I was very impressed. That's all well and good. I really do not give him a big chance versus Maru. Maru could be at his absolute worst form in the last 10 years, and I would still assume he wins. TVZ against Rogue post-military. And whether that's being meaner to Rogue or nicer to Maru is up for you to decide. But particularly with it being TVZ. And the reason is TVZ remains probably still the most mechanical matchup. People can argue all they want, that's fine, but generally when it comes down to it, people will agree that in terms of who is better or worse, the better player almost always wins Terran versus Zerg. Zerg versus Terran. Obviously there's balance, and maps. Maps actually played a huge part in last year's EWC, so there is that. But unlike mirror matchups, which can tend to be very, very volatile, or ZVP, which really is at a weird place right now, TVZ has remained stalwart, kind of the same, which is a downside and an upside. And it can be difficult to lose it if you really are the best player. And Maru generally is. Now, Maru did CC first. Rogue, funnily enough, this is so funny, I love when this happens. Rogue pull first, because he wants to get a delay on the natural. But if you CC first, your command center is done. You don't have to worry about it being delayed. It's such a fun thing. Now, there's no wall. And, this is quite common for the pro gamers as well to even have a bigger non-wall because they make room for the reactor. But an SCV pool will take care of things alongside some moderate micro. And then it's fine. Is this about as much chaos as Rogue was hoping for? Probably, actually. He just expected it to happen in the natural. Without a Reaper, which would have taken care of this no problem whatsoever, a Marine does struggle a little. A lone Marine. So, actually, at the end of the day, like I said, probably the same amount of chaos he wanted to imbue into this game, even with the CC first. But keep in mind, since it was a CC first, that does mean more economy, right? So, one Rex expands, you get that little distraction, a little hiccup on the natural, you go, okay, I did enough. That's kind of also considering that it wasn't the literal greediest thing that a Terran player could do, where a command center first basically is. Actually, this is literally the greediest thing you can do, officially at this point. I say this, and I always got to mention someone like Pult might have done no factory 3cc, but this is pretty much the greediest thing you can do. 3cc, factory, double engineering bay, all before starport, no additional barracks, no Reaper scout, by the way. Like this could have been a Roach follow-up. And Maru would be so dead. Unbelievably dead. And Rogue would so be the person to do that. And Maru did not give a fuck. Maru was like, oh, you pull first me, that sucks. Anyway. Like, you know, most sane people would have sent an SCV after and been like, oh shit, is he roach attacking me as well? Like, am I screwed here? And Maru was like, nah, it's fine. I'll wait for the Hellion. Okay. And the Hellions are gonna barbecue some drones even. Good lord. Amazing. It's just one of those days, I feel like, for Maru, where, like, nothing can go wrong. Everything he touches turns to gold. 2 drones go down with the sacrifice of 1 Hellion, so 100 mineral for 100 mineral. What Maru has not done and continues not to do is scout. You saw Roachborn a missile in a evolution chamber. There you go. That will eventually get missile attack. But he didn't see the lair. He hasn't confirmed, I guess, what could be a Nidus Worm. I think would be one of the other things I would be scared of. Like, the more time goes on, I can keep on listing potential all-ins, but I don't know if we're actually going to get any. And apparently he doesn't care. Just perfect macro on the home front. He has literally 3 Marines. At any point, if Rogue had made 10 roaches, this could have been devastating. Of course, Maru did at least get some scouting with the Hellions, so if he had seen 10 roaches, I'm sure he would have had a response. These Hellions will eventually scout the roaches, as they are on the way. Now a 1-1 roach all in. Looks like enough roaches to deflect a possibly upcoming double medevac drop, which is coming in about 30-40 seconds. But, I don't know, he keeps on making roaches, actually. He obviously knows what the build is. It's all 3cc. So he's just going to continue building roaches from this point while waiting for those upgrades to finish. 4th base is coming down, but it's kind of almost a fake. Yeah, you'll use it eventually. Yeah, he's just building roaches. So this is a different avenue. This is a different journey of getting to a roach attack. You know, something more typical might have been a 1-run roach attack, you know, where you hide the Roachborn, you hide the evolution chambers, and that's plural, you get 1-1. Then you only show lings. This ain't it. This is early on building roaches with only the +1 carapace. It has been scouted. That was a very, very important scout. Rogue had tried to segment his roaches apart so that 1, they're less identifiable as a real attack, and then 2, he could just literally pop up and surprise Maru with the attack here. Don't know why Maru picked up. It seemed like a bad idea, but even though he scouted roaches and ravagers, which really confirmed the attack, he just was like, I'm going to pick up. Never mind. Just kidding. Maru is playing such a almost foolishly courageous game. It's almost foolish. Little supply block as he's forced to lift his 3rd CC. He has to actually call down supply, and on one of the supply depots, it's almost guaranteed to die. He did lift up 2 medevacs, hoping that the natural will hold. I'm not sure that would be true. Rogue doesn't realize that a significant chunk of the army is missing, though, so he hasn't actually decided to push in, taking his sweet time killing these supply depots. Here we go, though, as the army of the Terran pushes into the 4th base. Rogue tries to win the game right here, right now, but the SCV pool is good. The tank, at least one of them survived, and a lot of the bio is still alive, too. 2nd tank still alive! No! And the Marine Marauder has just been ripping through. They've had 1-1 this entire time. 2-2 is about to finish. No combat shields, though. And the Roach Ravager still could not break through. Lost the 4th hatchery. Now the main is being attacked as well. At the very least, going to trade out well against this. It's 2-2 versus +1. And Maru even pushes out into the Roach Ravager. He thinks he can take it. He's almost right. He is right. This is insane. This is... I don't even know what to compare this to. You know, like, it's not quite like in Dragon Ball Z where they're so powerful that they're being, like, kicked and punched and nothing happens to them. It's like you were... The world was ending and you didn't realize it, and you just coincidentally also had, like, the thing that saved the world. You're just like, oh, I'm sorry, you wanted this? You wanted this thing? This thing that saves the world? Okay, oh, here you go. Sorry about that. Like, it's the most nonchalant emergency Terran versus Zerg I've ever seen. And Rogue's just, like, ferociously trying to, like, oh my god, I gotta do the thing, gotta do the thing. And Maru's like, sorry, bro. Even though you totally surprised me in multiple ways, I just don't care and I'm gonna win. And now his setup is really quite good in the natural. He's even built a missile turret, I guess, in case it's tunneling claws. I don't think killing the Overseer is that important. He's got 2 tanks, obviously apart from each other. Good amount of bio. They did just lift 2 more medevacs. 1 medevac still on the field, too. Rogue has been forced to leave a chunk of his roaches back at home to deflect this. Rogue at this point is saying, I'm okay with having delayed your third indefinitely. I think I get still win from here. And I don't think he's necessarily wrong. You know, 80 supply difference, but the Terran is a halfway to 3-3. This will almost certainly end the game in the Zerg's favor for anyone else besides Maru. But I'm still wondering if Maru wins. He did forget Marauder slow. He's 8 racks, which is funny because he really doesn't have a 3rd CC. Infestation Pit's now on the way for Rogue, as he did get maxed out first. Finally has his own double upgrades on the way. Roach Ravager just simply not going to be overwhelmed at this point. Like, Rogue has given up containing, so he has plenty of army back at home. Maru's drops will not cut it, but then again, Rogue can't attack into the natural apparently, and also can't chase the medevacs. He does not have anti-air. Although he does find Maru not microing perfectly. Let's the army behind a little bit. Tanks are repositioning. Rogue is not there in time to take advantage of it, however. Consistently sending changelings. I have noticed this. Changeling has been in the middle of Maru's army almost every single time I've looked. 3-3 is about done, guys. It's gonna have 3-3. What the heck? Baneliness is on the way as Rogue adds on to his composition. He might also add, maybe Ultras? I'm not sure about that one. First, we got this attack coming in from 2 different directions. That's a lot of tanks, however. And 3-3 bio! 3-3 bio just absolutely wrecked. He just didn't even care. What even was that? The tanks also were just perfectly enveloped in this bio cocoon. So they were free shooting. Rogue only at 1-2. Almost a 2-2, but Rogue just revealed a bit of a weakness. Maru said, okay, I can take that fight, then perhaps I can take an offensive fight. Brings his tanks forward, brings the rest of his army. Army supply is actually quite close together. Maru's just been on sub 40 SCVs for like most of this game. Oh, the banelings were slow. They get slaughtered by the tanks. The Roach Ravager trying to force its way forward, but now the bio can stand its ground. 3-3 versus 2-2. Ravager's left alone, unguarded. And Rogue, it feels like everything he did should have worked so well. But Maru was so insanely greedy to begin with that actually pushed him through to victory. This is one of the more unbelievable Roach games I've seen. I mean, we've seen plenty of Roach games where they don't quite win. They over-invest into the attack and the Terran turtles. The Terran goes crazy on the medevac drops. What else? Yeah, obviously we've seen a lot of bad Roach all-ins. This is one of the craziest ones I've seen. 2 base, sub 40 workers, but you're so insanely greedy to begin with that you get 3-3 at 12 minutes, was it? And then you can beat what was at times a 70 supply surplus for Rogue. And not all of it was an army, as I pointed out, but still. And also medevac count, but in this case, medevac count is great. with it being consistent, sustained damage with Roach Ravager, you actually want about as many Medivacs as you can get. Sometimes it's deceiving on the army supply because Medivacs don't help that much, but in this case, they absolutely do. Ling Baneling would take advantage a little more. You know, some explosions. The Roach Ravager, that's... The Medivac count has been part of the reason Maru has been able to stand his ground over on this defense as well as that attack. I mean, they don't die, do they? Unless they're hit by Corrosive Biles, which should not happen. Rogue, I think, is just in disbelief. I mean, he did... Maru is still only on 34 SCVs. But that, yeah, that's Maru's victory. What the... Can't believe it. You can't go Corruptors. Corruptors are far too expensive. I mean, if the game went on to like 4 base versus 5 and so on and so forth, then you might actually go for Corruptors. Like, that's been a thing in the past. Not very much anymore. But in that game, no, you wouldn't be able to afford it. I'd say that's a disgusting game. Yeah. You know, usually we say disgusting, filthy, outrageous, you know, because we're talking about someone cheesing. It was like a macro cheese. That was a disgusting display of Terran's, I don't know, scrappiness, I guess. It wasn't quite scrappy. It was like, you know, you were very, very rich and then you were forced to try and prove that you could become rich again if everyone, you know, if your money was taken away. And Maru proved that he could. Little forward racks. I haven't seen this in a while, honestly. This did become at one point absolutely the meta thing to do, and then it died off, I guess, kind of after EWC. But forward barracks is not as interesting as it might look. I mean, it's different, but it's not something that's incredibly unique. Rogue would have some experience against this as well. So, and it is also only 1 racks on the front. Sometimes we see this positioning for 2 racks. That does lead into a minor amount of early game pressure, but this is literally only 1 racks. So it, you know, could even seriously be a Marine. I was wondering what the hell that sound was. I was like, is my mic on the fritz? Then it's this thing. But yeah, as I said, it could even be a Marine. The gas is coming through, but just for a faster factory. So this does mean that you can make a Marine or 2 and then chase after the Overlord who thinks it has a safe spot. And it doesn't because you lit the barracks. But what it really means is that you just have a wall already. And usually Terrans aren't the most eager to get to the front wall anyway. But this actually is a very good build with a scout against even early game all-ins. Björn proved that. Björn was the one who was doing this all the time. And there's the 2 Marines. And he could lift the barracks if he really thought he needed to, but at this point he doesn't. He can just build a reactor. Once again, Maru did not scout. So if there were roaches coming across the map, this would probably be game. But, you know, people don't really do a lot of early game roach attacks because, yeah, they tend not to work. I mean, first, the Cyclone was reworked for a while, and that helped because they didn't need a tech lab to build a Cyclone. We are back to the old Cyclone, though, so that's not really what stops it. I'm not really sure what stops it being. I mean, I think we could see some type of, you know, cyclical meta where we do have more roach openers, roach all-ins. But the thing is that usually a Terran player scouts in some form. An SCV scout or a Reaper scout, particularly if you're up against a guy like Rogue who's known for cheesing. So that's kind of, I think, what more so stops Zerg from even bothering. They're like, the Reaper knows that it has to be scared of this, so even if I pull first, there's going to be some amount of scouting that still happens on the roaches, and they'll defend it, and it'll be fine. That is pretty early. It's not the roach attack I was talking about, of course. Marines being so carefree. They just ran all the way across the map. No care about speedlings. Because he didn't scout. He doesn't know that gas was late. He doesn't know it. But he didn't care about it either. Did someone just give him all of Rogue's replays? Like, he's like, I know you like the back of my hand. Hellions were denied entry into the natural. And they did scout the Roachborn. It is going to be 2 evolution chambers. However, the second one being used to upgrade, I'm not sure. I want to say yes. But it could be just to help the block. This little cancel there with the drone. Save its life. 3 Hellions still out for blood. 2 engineering bays coming down. As we did once again have a... Oh no, it wasn't that greedy. It wasn't that greedy, guys. 3 CC. The starport did come down. It's 2 barracks as well. So 3 CC, 2 on 1. Engineer base now coming. This is not nearly as greedy. And he has gotten some sufficient scouting with the Hellions. And now even a Liberator going into the main. We'll see the lair timing. So don't have to worry about a Nidus Swarm anytime soon. Or any amount of lair technology, I suppose. I would... Seeing the setup currently, I would be most afraid of a 1-1 Roach all-in. Third CC's almost done. Medivacs are almost ready. We are going to get our 2-1-1 started, which will also provide some scouting. 1-1 will be on the way for Rogue. He is going to do the 1-1 Roach attack. Well, we'll see if he actually all-ins with it. But if he doesn't add a Baneling on, a nest on, then it's just Roach. Roach very soon. In fact, it's already 5 extra drones. 70 drones? 4th base should be coming down. Yeah, I was going to say, 70 drones. He's definitely not doing the 1-1 Roach all-in. Yeah. He's got Hydra Stand Invitation put on the way. It would still be, to Maru's sight, I think, still the scariest thing currently. Is he going to 1-1 Roach all-in me? But he will soon discover the 4th base, which isn't the tell, but he'll soon discover a decent amount of drones. He'll eventually see the Hydra Stand, perhaps. Frankly, he'll just see a subpar number of roaches. And there is a chance... Oh, shit. Hellions getting into the 3rd base. Decent amount of drone damage. You know, for Hellions, you don't care about anymore as a Terran player. There's a chance that a very, very clever Zerg player can get a bit lucky and they can hide, you know, like 50 roaches off to the right. But in this case, he's even going to see the hive on the way. No, that's still the lair, actually. But he's gonna be picking up all these little tidbits of info when he's gonna collect together enough that he's gonna say it's not an attack, it's not an all-in. I actually should be even aggressive to try and stop you from getting to a hive super easily. But it is a very fast hive. Rogue got a 630, 620 hive. 3rd CC is down now for Maru. Transferring some workers. Still coming in with the Hellions, too. Oh, the Hellions saw the invitation in the Hydra Stand. Well, there you go. So he knows what's up. He's not quite ready to push in, of course. But he has a much better understanding of this game. 6 drones went down and a little bit of harassment, too. Rogue is very insistent on these changelings. Uh, 2-2 starts up for Maru. Actually around the same time that Rogue's 2-2 should start. Although he might be saving his gas for the Lurker upgrade. Or he might have misclicked. No, he's building units. Is his gas count high enough? Yeah, now it is. Then he's got all 8 of his gases. Triple medevac drop. I guess he was hoping the 3rd hatch was still a little vulnerable. It was not. Just an Overlord to find that does very temporarily. In fact, didn't even really supply block Rogue, who is now busting out all the Overlords. And you got ourselves a macro game. Although, well, only so much so. Rogue definitely thinking about the macro game. Maru thinking about the 8 racks. I didn't actually see when he put that down, but it could have been a response to the scouting. If he wasn't going to go for really the fastest 4th you could do, then I think he might have gotten the scout in time to decide 8 racks, or he might just be playing like that, because that, you know, is what he did last game as well, and the last game was way funkier, but that was his plan last game. So in 8 racks, holding against that while you're not quite settled as a Zerg player, that is pretty terrifying. The Zerg will eventually get all these really great things, like Lurkers, for instance, or Vipers with energy, but they're not ready yet, and they're not maxed out yet either. So Maru is going to push his way forward very aggressively, get on top of the third hatch before Rogue has any say. And it already does a decent amount of damage. Rogue is trying to replace it over to the top left. He's building a fifth anyway. Fortunately, this is where a couple of tech buildings are, and they are worth killing. I mean, Maru should probably continue attacking from this direction. The Lurkers will stop the attack temporarily, but Terran can try and get a really good concave, and they can try and overwhelm the Lurkers, although with the threat of the blinding cloud as well. I don't think he would try it now. He does reposition a little bit, gets that concave. Only one Lurker, I think, was helping. Maybe two were helping. That's not enough. Blinding Cloud did not come down. I think that would have been good enough anyway. And Maru is chipping away here, just entirely revolving over to the left side, in fact, forcing those Lurkers to follow him before they have their burrow speed. Tanks are abducted, some of them still sieging, actually, so they weren't particularly helpful. But look, it's just too little. Rogue gets slaughtered. And Maru will 2-0 and advance out of GSL. Just play like Maru. It's so easy. So this is the losers match, or the lower bracket match. We have Trigger in the top right, and Nightmare in the bottom left. Now this is my comfort zone. PvP. I've cast 1 billion of these in the last 5 weeks. It does happen a lot, though. Nightmare, he lost to SOS's PvP in the GSL qualifier. Obviously still got through some other way. He kind of played a very typical PvP where SOS played a bit of an older PvP, actually, and it worked. I didn't think Nightmare really did anything wrong. Actually, I remember SOS second game. First game was old school Immortal Charge Archon. Second game was actually a very difficult to scout all-in from SOS, where he did not get more than 2 gases on 3 bases. And he just, like, charged that all in. So Nightmare, I don't know, he got SOS, I guess. That's what happened, he got SOS. Well, now we'll see what Trigger can throw at him. Trigger's going to be a more typical PvPer. And I think both of them are going to be about average as far as PvP goes. There's the possibility of Cheese, possibility of all-in, possibility of macro. All available. Both of them 2-gating, even though it seems like more people are willing to 1-gate expand, even versus not max packs. Both these guys going to stick with the tried and true 2 gates. No one with a probe out, no one putting their pylon anywhere that shouldn't be. So this seems very much like a gentleman's game. Gentleman. Don't know how much they've played against each other, but since Trigger has been in Korea for 5 or 6 months, I think at least. I hung out with him when I was in Korea in October. So, yeah, he's been there for a while. I'm sure they faced each other on ladder. And obviously there's a possibility of studying each other for a GSL group, even though Trigger's first opponent was Maru and Nightmare's first opponent was Rogue. 2 adepts are coming out for Nightmare. It's going to be seen by Trigger's probe, if he sticks around anyway. He could plant the pylon. Not going to see it unless he just dies to it. Stalker Sentry is very macro. You're going to be able to scout your opponent easily with the Sentry Hallucination. Don't have to recharge it, really. As long as you haven't seen the lacking second pylon, you know that they're not going to immediately attack you. And the Nexus did, in fact, come down, kind of telegraphed by the pylon. Probe is running for its life, man. Hallucination sent out. The Adepts are going to make an appearance very soon. The probe could stick around. Prepare the wall. Prepare the wall. Okay, he does. Well done. And Hallucination, we'll see very typical follow-up. Double Sentry. Much, well, not much faster, but faster Twilight Council. Trigger has 1 more probe. It's really the only thing that's different here. The Twilight Council was straight up later for Trigger. So you got more gas expensive units. And I was wondering if he was going to try and poke with this. I was like, his army supply isn't technically bigger, but 2 Adepts are not helping on the defense and can be easily blocked out of the main. And that's exactly what Trigger is going to do. Not happy with keeping a decent army at home. He's going to try and find some damage. Nightmare might have been playing this a little bit too loosey-goosey. He kept on scouting with his Adepts to see that his opponent wasn't doing anything particularly aggressive, but he didn't actually see the move out. And he did not get a shield battery as the ultimate safety move. So that was a little scary there. Trigger, blocking out a couple units on the high ground with the force field could have also been quite tricky. I mean, there could have been maybe more damage done. As it is, Trigger kind of pushed in and then doesn't find too much. Adept could be killed. Adept could be killed. Not gonna be killed. Okay, fine. And we find Trigger actually ahead by 6 probes. So Nightmare, with the emergency response, stopped producing probes, maybe stopped chronoing, and immediately went into building army. And Trigger was able to find his advantage in that way. So a 5 worker difference, pretty good. But his blink, I guess in turn, the same way that Nightmare had to temporarily stop his macro, Trigger definitely later to his blink. I do not believe the blinks were this far apart when you talk about the Twilight Council timing. So he was just later to it. Or Nightmare has put more chronos into it, which actually might be the case. That might be the case. Well, that means that Nightmare will have much faster blink. He should be able to control the 3rd base timing as well. Looks like he might be a little scared of the possibility of Dark Shrine. Hallucination for Nightmare is going to get into the main, or it could. It's going to provide the high ground vision. Blink is not done for Trigger, but it looks like Nightmare not confident blinking 5 Stalkers against 4. And he shouldn't have been. Immortal is on the way for a Nightmare, but that 3rd Nexus, that's what I'm kind of waiting on. Oh, 2 gateways. 2 gateways and a Warp Prism are on the way for Trigger, who also grabbed the 2 base Robo. Sometimes this is just because you're scared of DTs, but you can obviously use other things for it. So an Immortal, for instance, versus a Warp Prism, but the Warp Prism with the additional gateways, prioritizing gateway production over that 3rd Nexus. Nightmare needs to figure that out. He did not blink into the main, so he did not see the possibility of a Warp Prism or the additional gateways. He has also not seen the 3rd base timing. Although, yeah, I'm pretty sure he didn't. He walked away and didn't get a hallucination, so he doesn't know if it was placed down immediately after he left or what. Trigger is going for a kind of dedicated attack. It's not that far behind in the Nexus timing. I'm afraid with 2 Immortals, though, Nightmare is pretty well set up for this. Shield Battery also helping. Blink Micro going crazy. Immortal shields have been popped. Trigger not going to find an advantage here. Did fall behind by 2 probes, and again, that Nexus timing, but it's not the worst. Still very much playable. He's going to have to worry about those 2 Immortals possibly on the offensive. Loses his Observer as well, so now he can't get some freebie scouting. Charge is on the way for Trigger, as it should be. Forge as well. Nightmare notably neglecting a Forge. 3 base attack. I thought, he did this versus SOS in a pretty good position. He killed, this is actually the same map, I think, too. Wow. He canceled SOS's 3rd base when it was maybe 40% done. Thought that was pretty bad for SOS. SOS got their base, got up to his army, moved in, and actually ended up killing Nightmare. This is weirdly similar, because Nightmare did not get an upgrade then, and I wondered if it was a mistake. Clearly not. But Trigger's upgrade was not particularly fast, so it's not what he prioritized here. So while he will eventually have an upgrade lead, right now he's in some trouble. Force fields might have been the plan here, but I think it's too late. Yeah. Uh-oh. 2 Immortals. Gonna pack so much of a punch. Supplies very, very even. Shield Battery, though, not done, means that Trigger doesn't have nearly as much of a defense advantage as you would expect. His own Immortal does pop out, and he has a Guardian Shield compared to his opponent. Nexus is currently tanking the damage as, he blinks forward! Grabs the Warp Prism. Still Guardian Shield in effect for Trigger, and Immortal hacking away here. A couple of Zealots, Chargeless helping as well. Trigger desperately trying to make a hold, but he has also lost 6 probes. His Nexus is in danger. If he cannot hold literally right here, right now, he will lose that Nexus, but it looks like a hold is barely going to happen. The aggressive blink forward as Trigger traps a couple of more Stalkers. Damn, that was close. At the end of the day, Trigger will hold on to his Nexus, will hold on to his Warp Prism, will hold on to a bit of an army supply lead. He is falling behind in the economy. But he has decided that now is the time to strike. His opponent does not have charge, no longer has those 2 Immortals, and does not have an upgrade, although Trigger still has about 20 seconds, 25 seconds to go. Would be lovely if that could more so time out with this, but he doesn't want to give his opponent too much more time to reinforce. Shield battery full of juice here for Nightmare. Both of them now with Zealots, but again, Triggers have charge. Immortal shift queuing, I suppose, on the Stalkers. Nicely done. More reinforcements from the War Prism for Trigger. +1 is gonna finish. And it looks like Trigger was already winning the battle anyway. Nightmare thought he had it in the bag when he did his attack, but Trigger barely held on. And now he has taken game-ending damage, even as he snipes the Immortal. Losing 16 probes is just too much. Nightmare hoping that I guess Trigger might miss micro or not make the right units here, but even as the Zealots chase over the Stalkers away, at the end of it, they're going to be effective enough. And an Immortal comes in too. Yeah, Nightmare now on basically 0 Stalkers. GG. Trigger wins game 1. Tokamak is game 2. The top right, Trigger. Bottom left, Nightmare. I was very scared for Trigger on that defense. I think Guardian Shield really helped. And obviously the Warp Prism snipe ended up really helping. There's always that chance you blink into the Warp Prism, you get it, but then 2 Immortals are just having their way with your Stalkers, and it's not really worth it. But I think it was that time around. Absolutely. Just barely. I was worried he didn't have a shield battery, mostly. Shield battery wouldn't have been as worried. But Nightmare loses out in the first game. Still has a chance to bring this back. It is the losers match. So whoever loses here is out of the GSL. Whoever wins goes to face Rogue in the decider match. Is Trigger one-gating? Trigger is one-gating. Oh, no, he's not. Just kidding. Never mind. Little later to the gas. Minor differences here. Trigger's also scouting, where Nightmare looks like he's not going to bother. Okay. No, he's not going to bother. You save a little bit of money, but you don't know if they're proxying a pylon, which... it's not always a guarantee they're attacking you, but... No, Nightmare never played Zerg. I was talking about his Protoss DT Blink game in 2016. I mean, he could have played Zerg before that, I guess. I don't know if there's any other names similar to Nightmare you might be thinking of. There was a Terran player named Dream, and that was always fun when they face each other. 2 Adepts versus 2 Adepts this time, actually. Interesting change-up. I wonder if any of them are going to go for more Adepts. Nah, both in the Stalkers. Okay. So again, Nightmare has no scouting. He doesn't know if he's being cheesed. And again, even if you do scout the Lacus like a pylon, doesn't guarantee it. But he's hoping to get a scout with the Adepts. There'll be 2 ships passing in the night. He did play Zerg twice and lost both. Okay. Fair enough. Trigger did leave the probe last time, and he will this time. Didn't have the money? What was that? What was that? What was that? I don't know. I think he didn't have the money. Oh, no. Well, Nightmare didn't block his either, so... Nightmare was a little closer to the probe line, I guess, but it looks like a force field helped, and well, they're gonna do almost equivalent damage to each other. Almost. Trigger leaves with 1 adept, I guess. Still behind by 1. A little bit tighter on the build order, though. Nightmare is actually being caught up a little too much. I mean, it's seconds of difference, of course, but he did get caught up a little too much in the response, so his Twilight Council is 10 seconds later. If that. And the Adept being alive for Trigger does mean that he has consistent scouting, even though he also has a Sentry, obviously he could use that. He didn't... I guess he doesn't have to. It's still better scouting, I suppose. So I guess the Adept is scouting plus a threat. You don't want to let it get very close to your mineral line, which I think this is close enough, yeah. Yeah, Adept's going to try and go for a couple of probe kills. Plus a scout, as I said. Yeah, 2 Adepts, 2 probes killed. That would be nice for Trigger, who also got the scout, can save his Sentry energy. This early on in what now is clearly kind of... they're going to be waiting to attack each other. Sentry energy might not be important. Oh, Trigger thinks there's something off with what he saw. Maybe because he didn't see Blink actually start? Yeah, okay, okay, I was going to say, so you don't, typically you're not worried about losing out on a force field, but you could be. But it looks like Trigger was spooked by the Twilight Council not researching. And he is scouting every which way for something in proxy. Huh. Okay. Better safe than sorry. But that does mean he does not have force fields, so... That's what I was pointing out earlier. And he does get force fielded a little bit there, so he takes a bit of a worse fight. But he did warp in, so it's not like he's been terribly greedy with the Nexus timing. It's a little sketch, though, honestly. No pylon coming down, meaning no shield battery anytime soon. Trigger does have faster reinforcements, catches one of those sentries. Okay, yeah, no, he pushes that back. Nightmare was probably hoping to stick around, maybe until he even had Blink. Still taking advantage of the shield batteryless third, but Trigger was catching up on the Blink Stalker count. Fairness advantage would kick in. Nightmare actually even used 2 of his warp-ins to make 2 more Adepts. Now it's Trigger's time to try and attack in turn. Presumably both of them have Blink. Both of them know that both of them have Blink. And Trigger's just looking for a little surprise if he could. Didn't find it. Adepts, though, might surprise him. 2 Stalkers were left behind for Trigger. Nice instant reaction. Still, some probes will die. Yeah. 4? Yep, 4. So that's a 4-worker lead for Nightmare. Once again, we have Trigger going for Forge. Now, this time, he did not go 4-gate 3rd Nexus. He went 3rd Nexus same time that Nightmare did. And then the difference now is the Forge, right? They're both getting their appropriate amount of gateway production for the economy they've set up. Whoop, bit of a misclick there. I guess maybe he wanted to pull the Sentry back. But the Stalkers are rather low for Trigger. I guess some of them are low for Nightmare as well. Both not extremely comfortable continuing the fight. Jesus, okay, pick a lane. Okay, now they both will stop attacking each other. Charge is on the way for both players, but +1 is going to be faster for Trigger. Nightmare does opt for Forge as well. Did he get a Robo? He did get a Robo. Just for an Observer so far, no Immortal for him. Trigger chooses to add the Immortal. They are very, very similar at this point. Gas count's also similar. Yep. Warp Prism's coming out for Nightmare. Tipping us off to a potential intention to attack. The Trigger's really not doing anything too differently. Observer was hurt, I think. Maybe. Warp Prism also on the way for Trigger now. Observer's going to get in and see a Forge, but you can't tell how far away your opponent is from you. The Observer of Trigger opted to head to the left. Got advanced scouting on an attack coming from that position. Or, I guess, onto his 4th base, which he seems intent on taking. Nightmare ditto. Templar Archive's now on the way. This is a macro game, y'all. Trigger going for the Templar Archives first. Nightmare should also go for it. I mean, it's two decisions, really. You can go for the Templar Archives, add your own Archons, or you can continue on the gas count you currently have and maybe try and overwhelm with Zealots, I guess. But, you know, once the Archon count gets to a decent amount, okay, a fight's going on in the middle of the map. Trigger maybe caught a little more off guard, but Nightmare very aggressively going after that Warp Prism. Didn't get quite the advantage he thought. Still a Trigger advantage in the army supply that Immortal helping out right now. More Zealots coming in for Trigger, who did lose his Warp Prism, but he's the defender. He still has very quick reinforcements. Nightmare, might regret being so eager. He thought he caught his opponent off guard, which technically he did, but not well enough. And the Warp Prism snipe is not nearly as punishing when it's on their side of the map. Nightmare did add on the Templar Archives, by the way, so he can get his own Archons, but will he have time to get them? And will they make up for almost 30 supply? Trigger quick to remake his Warp Prism, also has his 4th base on the way, so Trigger, and he could just go for the 4th of his opponent, kill it, and then say, okay, that's job done. But it looks like he wants to go for the throat. Patiently waiting for the Warp Prism. 2 Archons apiece. Shield Battery helping out Nightmare. A lot more Stalkers for Trigger, though. That is a considerable amount of DPS at that point. And good focus fire from it. They could jump on top of the Shield Battery or on the Archon or focus fire down the Immortal, whichever it is. Trigger simply has more. And Nightmare's Shield Battery will not save the day. The Pro Pool out of desperation is not a good sign. Nightmare on his last life in the GSL is going to be knocked out by the Canadian. Trigger represent. Nightmare is really going to be regretting that blink in. If he had done anything else, you know, this game probably would have continued on for a while, but he made the quick decision, and unfortunately for him, it was wrong. All right, guys, we got ourselves our final match of Group B. Going to be a PVZ. In the bottom left, it is Rogue. In the top left of Persephone, it is Trigger. This is not a rematch. Rogue faced Nightmare for one of the preliminary matches. And was able to 2-0 him. He looked really strong, too. I mean, I've seen Rogue back from military, and he's looked, you know, incredibly on point with his all-ins, but then another game he might not be able to all-in, and he tries to play a perfect macro game, and he does have some, you know, late walls or supply blocks or, you know, what have you. It doesn't look as perfect, but he kind of brought the whole package in his initial ZVP. I'd be, you know, very scared if I was Trigger. I think in general you're scared against a guy named Rogue, no matter how good you are. Well, unless you're Maru, of course. Unless you're Maru, then you're not scared. But other than that, you should be scared of him at all times. Because he can do a really fierce all-in, and he will be totally willing to, and that's what the meta kind of dictates right now. But clearly, he can also play a really nice game against any types of twists and turns you might throw at him. So I don't think it would be in Trigger's best interest to really do something incredibly aggressive. If he wants to open up Resonant Glaives, I don't think I would mind it, you know, but maybe not the Void Ray into Resonant Glaives that we saw from Nightmare, which just delays it and then kind of was very dependent on surprise, but then went the wrong direction because the creep sword is already so far out. It's a little scary for Trigger, for sure. But I think he can get into his groove, and I think he can be a very powerful PvZ player. Thank you, Green Glade, for the 5-month resub. Third hatch had to be taken. Trigger did probe block. And Trigger doing nothing of note back at home because it's just the start of the game. Yeah. So Rogue, you know, he didn't get the chance to be the dictator of the game because Nightmare did not just do a standard 2 or 3 Oracle into third Nexus. There was a little bit more before that. So I wonder if Rogue's going to change things up because he can, first of all, because Trigger won't be aggressive. Or also that he, like some other Koreans, I think, is kind of prone to just all-inning the Foreigner. I mean, the first one that comes to mind for that is Dark. Dark is the Foreigner killer. and you can see him play a macro game every game for 10 series straight, and then he faces a foreigner, and he's like, get the fuck out of my... And he just all-ins him and beats him. But I think Rogue can kind of be that way a little bit, too. And it's not just, some type of, I don't know, lack of respect or something. No, I mean, it just makes sense. There's kind of the testing that can happen in StarCraft happens early on. The earlier on you can test them, the more that you don't let them get into the groove. You don't make them feel comfortable. And for the most part, it seems like almost every foreigner who's ever come into Korea and the GSL has been a little vulnerable to that, being a little bit like, well, I guess I am the underdog, even though I've beaten this guy in international tournaments before. Oracle is on the way, clearly scouted by Rogue, who may just got the links across the map before the wall was complete. Kind of sucks as a Protoss that happens, but what are you going to do? Spawn was a little late, but the second Oracle is on the docket, and this is going to go into a third Nexus then. This really is as standard as it can go. So now we get to see if Rogue will all in. These get to decide. The first one was just kind of a sucky Protoss thing. The second Ling run by was, Trigger not realizing. Rogue had made a couple more Lings, sent him across the map, and was waiting for the Adepts to move. And the Oracle had gone across the map, so it couldn't help out. It actually almost died. Thank goodness it didn't. And that is a big disruption to Trigger's build. He manages to at least get that third down, which could have easily been forgotten about with all the hubbub if, Trigger was a much worse player, but he at least has that actually building and on the way. And he'll be probably a little more cautious against Sling Run Bias. Stop! No, stop! No wall, please! The Lings go after the Adepts, which is actually kind of a blessing, I think. That Stalker would not have been warped in time. I was going for the Overlord, too! No, wall! For the love of God! Okay. I might be cheering for Trigger, but I also might just be cheering for not, abrupt games. Oracle is so injured from earlier on. Needs to be so careful. Rogue's really on top of the Oracle movement, too. 3 base saturation, just about. And 4th base is on the way for the Zerg. Lair on the way, too. No Roachmore, no fear, right? He scouted everything with all these run-bys. There really is no fear. And while a Blink Stalker attack eventually could be on the way, it actually isn't. And these Lings are just messing Trigger up so much. Rogue going for, these Lings instead of full saturation immediately. That is what's tripping Trigger up. Rogue could have been fully saturated on 3 bases and then made some Lings. And that would have been more common pacing. But the Lings were made, then the drones, and this has caught Trigger unaware almost every single time. So even though it's not a tremendous amount of damage, it's all throwing Trigger's game out of whack. And the more that he feels the need to be defensive as well, the more that he's not going to scout something important like a Spire. That's pretty important. This is a very... this could actually even be seen as a greedy build, I would say. Ling only can be kind of sketch. There's a point where Trigger will start to produce army, and it will, in bulked together, will be better than Lings. And you're not going for any safety Roachmoran. It can be sometimes kind of greedy. In this case, I think it's totally fine. Trigger still not getting to a decent enough Stalker count to be threatening. At the very least, as short up his defenses, not going to let them back into the natural. Oracle see the 4th base. They see all the gases taken as well. Pretty quickly. Well, I shouldn't say all the gases. They see the 4th base gases really quickly. Obviously, they missed the natural in the 3rd, but that is enough. Yeah, it is enough. There you go. It is enough to alert him. He's going to immediately build a Phoenix as soon as he saw that. So he's not thinking, but he is getting constantly tripped up by these these Lings. Oh my god. Blink is done though. Lings do not quite have their +1, and they are going up against a shield battery, and they got recharged, so they aren't going to win that fight. Trigger is going to have a hell of a game in front of him, though. 13 mutas are on the way, and while the Phoenix are being produced, it's frankly just annoying. Maybe he produced 1 or 2 Archons. He doesn't know for sure what his opponent is, like how much he's dedicating to the mutas. He's pretty damn sure it's, oh my god, why? He's pretty sure that it's mutas, but how much you're dedicating to it and how much they could be building in a ground army, that's in question. It is a lot of mutas. 17 mutas will be out very soon. Archons aren't formed to protect that third base. Slings help clear out the natural as well. Oh, this is ugly, ugly, ugly. This would have been a totally fine, even dare say perfect game if the Lings weren't such dickheads. If bad things didn't happen, bad things wouldn't have happened. Okay? Yeah. He just took so much damage and was thrown so far off with these Lings, man. If he could get time, he might be able to recover 3 bases, but losing his Phoenix, losing his Oracles, losing his Stargate? Hopefully not. Could be depowered, though. Trigger really should have more army at this point. And, yeah, he's just gonna tap out. It's too ugly. It's just too ugly. He knows that behind this, Rogue's probably rich as hell. And now game 2. In the bottom right on Pylon, it is Rogue. In the bottom left, or top left, it is Trigger. Such an ugly game, man. It all starts from the first Ling run by. Well, maybe the second one. The first Ling was just a scouting Ling. That is no problem. The second one was the Harbinger. You know? It's like I'm the foreshadowing. And it was ugly.
Twitch Prime sub received.
And I can't help but think,
for appeasing the
I know I said it plainly, but it still can't help but think that he was clearly still thinking correctly. There wasn't, usually when this type of thing happens, where Lings get in, Lings surround, Oracles almost die, the whole game goes to shit. Like, the whole game. I don't scout the mutas, I don't think about the mutas, and I just die as soon as the first mutas show up. And, you know, or also, oh my god, the Lings got in, and oh my god, I didn't start my third base. Oh, I'm so far behind. Usually it's really bad. And Trigger, even though at the end of the day that was not a good game for him, it still felt like his brain was intact, you know? If he had just not lost so much to the Lings, the army. If he had lost either the army or the probes, if he kind of lost both multiple times to those Lings, I feel like he actually had a chance in that game that wasn't maybe as indicative of there being a significant skill gap as some people might believe. But that doesn't keep you that warm at night if you end up losing. Rogue, once again, forced to take his second base at his third. Minor annoyances. Maybe Trigger will try something different. Maybe he'll try and get the first say in the game with Adepts. Certainly, playing a macro game where you are just more aware of their Ling pressure would be fine as well. That does seem to be the option. Because really, it's, you know, second gateway comes down on time. Stalker fills the gap here. Stalker doesn't allow itself to be dragged out from the third base. And you have such a better position. And if you are also keeping your brain active, then you're also thinking, okay, well, what is the follow-up? What is the follow-up? Oh my god, it's Mutas. And he would have been probably fine. Even when he tapped out, there being only a 50 supply difference was somewhat surprising. Just with how bad the rest of the game felt. But I don't know if Rogue would go Mutas again. Maybe it depends on whether or not his Lings actually cause problems. Already is looking better. No Ling got in. The Adept is going to stay patiently at home. And so the Oracle will be properly controlled on the offensive. Second Oracle on the way. Third Nexus does come down. Oh, it just came down, and Lings are already on top of it. Doesn't look like it's enough Lings to out DPS the health, though. Second Adept needs a help. Pylon being prepared with the shield battery. Little, little micro. Oh, no! That was the one that was blocking! Fuck. Not again. And again, just to point this out, a lot of other Zerg players would not have made this many Lings. They would have taken the opportunity to build as many drones as possible. And that is maybe more often the Zerg that Trigger faces. It's possible. But Rogue has clearly identified a weakness. Oh, he just Link Queen all-inning. Oh, okay. Yeah, he has very much identified a weakness. The Oracle did not see this. It came home, which, I mean, it probably would have died in the middle of the map anyway if it did see it. But it hasn't seen this at all. Now, you know, if he cancels the third, I actually don't think this is unplayable. But if his natural gets broken too, then that's no good. Yeah, okay. So he's just gonna, I didn't cancel the third though. Prioritizing getting that wall up, looks like, over canceling the third with limited time left. And Rogue sees that that's the plan and says, oh yeah, okay, fine, I'll take the third base. If he was continuing to all in and he was bashing 50 Lings up against a wall, Rogue could be making a mistake, but Rogue's droning, and so this is just a straight up victory. Oracles find an under-defended third. That's some good news, finally. Goes to town a little bit. 9 drones. No, he's gonna lose the Oracle. 9 drones should have been the freebie. We'll miss micro there. Almost baiting him to get those Lings in. Trigger obviously wants to take his third base back as quick as possible. No! Oh, and after the first game, this would be one of those moments where you wouldn't even be surprised if Trigger tapped out. Not because it really is unplayable, it just feels terrible. But it is his last game in the GSL. Rogue has built up a good economy despite the drone losses from the Oracles. He is going into Ling Hydra, which will Trigger will find very difficult to hold. Oh, a couple of freebie overlords. Blink's not done. Blink's not done. Blink's not done. Oh my god, no. Overlords are saved. Yeah, the Lings are going to be okay with this trade. And Rogue is not quite ready to bust out the Hydras, maybe, but just added on all these gases. And is almost ready. Blink is done with +1. Trigger going to try and find any amount of damage that he can. But he doesn't have a Robo, and his Oracle's died, so he can't clear up the creep spread. Finds 1 active creep tumor. Little miracles. The army supply really isn't that different. Rogue should be a little scared of this. More stalkers are on the way. Creep spread reveals that too, but Rogue was just about to produce non-stop army. So this could have been worse. If Rogue had tried to saturate his base first with 7 more drones, this actually could have been very, very scary. But he was making army. The Hydras do come out with some queens to help. And there's no proxy, so even if Trigger kind of starts to win the tug of war, he won't really ever win it. What? Yep, yeah, maybe. Maybe. Hydras are bit of glass cannons. Lure the Lings. Gonna focus fire them down. More stalkers on the way. Desperately hoping that Rogue might have maybe made an army a little too late. 9 more Hydras are on the way, though. Hydra speed was done, and now Hydra range will also be done. Helping the defense here. Oh, man, also the high ground vision. I kind of forgot to account for that, because the Oracle could usually be a part of this. And the Oracle being a part of this would actually be so big. The creep spread would have been cleaned up, so maybe Rogue wouldn't know for sure there's still an attack on the way. Not that I think he would have stopped building army. But then, more importantly, Stasis Trap could have been there. And a Stasis Trap that Rogue didn't see could have been the changing point of this game. If earlier on there's like 5 Hydras and 4 Queens left, and then the Queens were trapped, like that actually could have been the moment. And now the moment's gone. Moment's gone. Game's over. Rogue's gonna send all of his Lings and Hydras across the map while taking his 4th base and getting unsupply blocks. Phoenix is gonna confirm that it is indeed pretty much just Ling Hydra, but he's got no splash, and it is difficult to take care of this. He's got a shield battery and a cannon to help him out. A couple of force fields trying to do their best as well. Guardian shield, though, not available. Recharge already used on maybe the Sentry to begin with. Aggressive blink forward, but that was a bit many. That was a bit much. Storm on the way, +2 over halfway done. Trigger's not going out without a fight. This is still a very playable game, but lurkers are on the way, and that might have been what the hallucination was trying to scout for. He's going to need another one, but he also needs to worry about an incoming attack, so he's going to hold on to the energy. I wonder if Trigger knows how playable this really is. It'd be so hard to tell in his position. He saw the 4th base only just now making. You know, he did see the technology wasn't exactly fast. I think he might actually have a good idea. Still a very scary position, but Rogue, not as ahead as he was hoping for, not able to just go for the Ling Hydra follow-up to kill the guy. Could save on the Pro, though. He's going to try and take a 4th base. Infestation Pit also on the way as Rogue completes his droning, since he realizes an attack is not going to work out. I'm just thinking about the earlier stage of the game. I guess maybe you do leave the Nexus alive, just so it buys time. I was just wondering if he would actually be ahead if he had canceled it, but now I'm like, maybe he would have, his natural would have been in more trouble. Back to the game at hand. Lurkers have appeared. Trigger is getting his way to a 4th base, although Rogue's Ling Hydra army is going to try and get that cancel, which I think it'll be successful in too. Observer is available, no Overseer to snipe that down. Trigger might even try and... Yeah, he's got to cancel that. Well, this guy, I don't know about concaving on this. It's still a decent amount of lurkers. Nexus canceled. Nexus is going to be rebuilt. Some army getting distracted apart from this. Fleet Beacon is on the way. He's going to try and get maybe just a couple of air units to help out against these lurkers. You can't really get much more, only on 1 Stargate. Rogue is on 69. Nice workers. 5th base should be coming down soonish. Although he is also trying to get to a hive, and he's probably going to get those lurker upgrades. Look at he split, so he can't really afford too much. He is not rich. Not rich at all. Storm's helping out this army quite a bit. The lurkers will make a slow advance. And that's still pretty damn scary. 11 lurkers slowly making their way forward. Trigger kind of reveals the potential. I'm not sure that was supposed to be like a back attack or what. Maybe just supposed to try and catch some of the lurkers left on the left side. Didn't really work out. Juno Glance is on the way. Hydra Frenzy is on the way, as well as, of course, the lurker upgrades. Again, Rogue is not super rich, so he's not able to max out while doing this. Blink forward? Whoa, 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 whoa. I don't think Trigger realized how many lurkers there were. Yeah, that wasn't it. That was not it, but he does pull back in time. He can still recover. 4th base is up and running. First Tempest is on the way. Mothership as well. It's going to have +3 attack versus just +1 for a little while yet. Trigger is holding on. Just barely. Still not comfortable. Still not a good attack. I don't really know if you ever break this with a ground army. I mean, I guess if you did have an army coming from the backside, if this was an actual surround, maybe. I would not trust it. That's 15 lurkers. About to be, what, 19 lurkers? 20. I don't know. Trigger's mama ship is here, and the Overseer was made. It's not going to win the day. Trigger really wants to get these lurkers to back off, but they're not backing off. Quite the opposite, in fact. They're going to actually continue their aggression off the left side, protect this 5th base. And Trigger is to decide either try and take out these ones while they're a little bit alone or go and defend his fourth, and he's got to defend his fourth. That is an ugly, ugly battle. Lots of pylons going down. Trigger getting supply blocked. 17 lurkers on the very front of your fourth base, man. Oh, no. Oh, my God. Those zealots got deleted. And the immortal shields are popped. And they are going down. Once those shields pop, immortals seem just as flimsy as anything else. So many lurkers are still alive. If he had brought the number down to 5, I think that would have been okay. But he, you know, brought it down to 10. That's not okay. And he lost a lot of his own army. Unfortunately, there was some hope, but not enough. Rogue is gonna... Oh my god, Frenzy is incredible. Oh my god. Yeah, Rogue is gonna 2-0, and he will advance on with Maru. Trigger put up a good fight. Didn't come out last. Even somewhat recovered in this game. But that's it. Rogue comfortable on this. Is this the Rich Vespasian guy? It is, yes. Jesus, Frenzy is so silly looking. My god. Trigger doesn't want to tap out, and he has got nothing else going for him. Can't even take this base. It's been creeped up since 9 minutes. Maybe because he has some air army, he's a little more confident, but there are corruptors now being built. 9 of them already on the field. Frenzy, Jesus. Good for dodging, good for dodging. More probes going down, not that they were really necessary. It's almost out of mining anyway. Couple freebies is nice. Rogue is just thinking about how to really end this one. He's got more upgrades on the way. He's actually only at +2 attack. Trying to get to +3 with the air flyer attack. Rich Vespian might be a goner. Trigger does find Rogue a little out of position. And with a 40 supply difference, about 30 of that in army, there is a chance for a Protoss army. 10 drones are also lost. Rogue not replacing that. Rogue's not exactly rich, man. He does not have a super comfortable bank. If he were to take some type of horrendous fight where he loses all of his lurkers, he would not replace those. He's gonna win the air war by the looks of things with 18 corruptors, but say the lurkers do die somehow, then Trigger could try and focus up on the ground game, and Rogue wouldn't be able to replace them. I don't know how the lurkers would die though. They aren't going down. Time up on the lurkers. Some of them will fall. Corruptors, though, going after... Oh my god, everything's going after it. Rogue is coming in with a swarm, hoping that this is finally the battle that wins them the game, and I think it will be. Trigger tried his damnedest, though. Stuck it in for almost 18 minutes. Maybes, what ifs, could have beens. But that is finally it. Down to the last little Archon there. And Trigger still doesn't want to leave because it is his last life. The Rogue has retaken his 5th. Still has some mining on his 4th at the very least. I mean, Rogue, obviously he's winning by a lot. But she's like, I don't know if you would say that he played the absolute safest game in the situation. Doesn't matter. He wins. 2-0. Rogue advances with Maru, and that is Group B. All right, that's it. Group A and B done. Group C and D next week, I guess. Thanks for watching, guys.